Hi guys! Today we're going to be talking about the timeline of the World of Walker music videos. This entire video is based on a comment that Alan made on his social media posts. His original comment had all the videos in the release order, starting with Faded and ending with Heading Home. And now recently he's changed some of them, however he happened to list them in reverse order. On the screen right now is the correct order that we believe is the chronological order of all the music videos in his series. So without further ado, I'm going to jump in and talk about the ancient walkers that are seen in Heading Home. Now, these walkers existed around 2,900 years prior to On My Way, around 900 BCE. Now, some of the artifacts found in the walker excavations even date back to around 3,800 years prior to On My Way. These ancient walkers are seen during Heading Home and at the end of Alone Part 2. Walker 28300 comes into their timeline at around 900-ish BCE, but we're going to talk about more of that later. An important thing to note is that she seems very familiar with the walkers, as if she might be part of the tribe. When we see her in Heading Home, we don't know how long she's been with these walkers. We don't know how long she's been a part of their timeline. Maybe she's been there for years, months, days. We have no idea. But it is important to note that she's very comfortable with them and what she's doing. This might be something for plot simplicity, however, I'm not entirely sure. The main premise of this music video is that she warns them of the massive meteor that she sees coming that would wipe them out. And because of that, they, in turn, bury their technology in capsules that will open in around 3,000 years. The exact date on the capsule, when translated into years, is 2,998 years and 130 days. They perform their rituals before entering into a sort of well or safe hole to protect themselves from the meteors. On My Way more or less covers 28300's knowledge of Walker civilization. How much she knows about this is somewhat debatable, so we're going to be discussing more about this later after we get through the timeline. She's researching the ancient civilization, and this is where the flashbacks and the scenes that we see intercut during Heading Home take place. Throughout this video, she also finds traces to the stone monuments and unearths contents of a capsule and a megalith. After that, we have Alone Part 2. Now, this still takes place in modern day or close to it. In this video, we see 28300 further her research on the ancient civilization by traveling to a cave which seems to be the resting place of the civilization. And she finds this prophecy disc that's covered in moss. We also see flashbacks to when the ancient civilization was still there. And an important thing to note is that when the ancient civilization is shown, that prophecy disc is not mossy, meaning that that disc was not only a major part of their culture when it was there, but that it was still left there in their resting place. Next are the live performances of Alone Part 2 and Heading Home. So after 28300's journey to the cave, she travels back to France, and she finds a new prophecy disc with a cutout, and she meets some of the Red Walkers and gets the necklace. After that, she has to break a glass in one of her own displays at the museum in order to grab the drone and place it into the disc. Once she does so, the disc reveals to her the ancient memories through scanning her and identifying her. This would therefore fill the gaps in her deja vu. Next up is Alone, followed by Sing Me to Sleep. Now these two videos are sort of interchangeable with each other, as one doesn't really affect the other. An important thing to note is that neither of these videos were really intended to fit into this massive cinematic universe that Alan has created. Now, Alone probably depicts some sort of meeting, however, we aren't really sure what they're discussing or what they're meeting for. We do have a few ideas of that will also be at the end of this video. Now, Sing Me to Sleep appears to be a sort of crude testing or application of a technology that 28300 found. It is sort of assumed that the walkers have regained control of this technology that was part of their ancestors, and they will carry it on and keep testing it and working with it. After Sing Me to Sleep, we have Tired. And now Tired depicts this massive solar storm and the chaos around it because it's going to be shutting down a lot of electricity and digital communication around the world. What we see the walkers doing is they're encapsulating 28300's technology in capsules to keep it safe for the future. These capsules are set to open 83 years after they're buried. Now, the events of Tired sort of result in this post-apocalyptic world that we're going to see in upcoming music videos. We're not entirely sure what caused so much damage to the world, however, we can sort of assume that maybe a war happened, the economy crashed naturally, or famine happened. This is a really good place, in my opinion, that a new trilogy could pick up and explain what happens after Tired and what led up to the events of All Falls Down, Darkside, and Diamond Heart. After Tired, we have Faded. As mentioned before, this wasn't necessarily intended to fit into the World of Walker universe. However, it just shows a walker in the ruins of a city, presumably after the solar storm has hit. This might also tie into the idea that there was a war and a lot of buildings were damaged because of it. Next up, we have All Falls Down. Now, this sets the whole stage for the next 3 and final videos in this timeline. This happens in around the 2100s sometime, and it's sort of centered around this group of sort of refugee walkers, and they find the buried capsules of the walkers' technology. This may have been buried either during the Tired or the Heading Home era, as both dates seem to converge at this one singular date that it would be safe to open in 2100. Naturally, after they found this technology, they were able to learn to control the drones, they had better clothing, and it really bettered their life altogether. After that, we have Darkside, and we see the same group of black-clothed walkers that we see in All Falls Down meet a group of elder white walkers that only made a brief appearance in All Falls Down. We see them collaborate to scan the buildings that we're going to see later in Diamond Heart. Now in Diamond Heart, we see even larger groups of black-clothed walkers and white-clothed walkers coming together to build this massive city by a waterfall. And as we see the buildings and all these monuments being built, in my opinion, it seems very reminiscent of what we saw in Heading Home in that ancient walker city. This may have been the entire goal after the old civilization was wiped out, to rebuild their greatness and to restore sort of a safe haven for the walkers. It's interesting to note that one of the members of Red Nexus, a group with malicious intents, are seen in the All Fall Down, Darkside, and Diamond Heart trilogy. Perhaps we'll learn more about their backstory in the Walker excavations. Our current theory is that he might be a spy who intentionally works at Red Nexus with a mission to protect the drones and technology from being exploited by the group. So this more or less concludes our timeline. From here on out, we're going to be discussing more hypothetical ideas, questions that we have, and possible solutions to the problems that we've seen. So these first theories we're going to be talking about discuss how in the world 28300 managed to be in 2 different timelines in 2 different periods of time, all during her one lifespan. This first theory suggests that her home timeline is modern day. She was born in the same era, and she time traveled to the past to get to Heading Home. Then after that, she will jump in the well and she sort of vanishes. We never see her again in modern day. Brings up the question, how did she travel back in time? And how does she recall the events in Heading Home, seemingly in the library and On My Way? Are these realizations, or is this just meant to be a connection to show sort of a cinematic parallel between what she's doing and what she saw? A second possibility says that her home timeline is in Heading Home. She was born thousands of years ago, was with the walkers, she saved them, she traveled into the future to On My Way and Alone Part 2, but somehow had her memory wiped in between, so she's researching herself without knowing it. But this brings up the question, how would her memory be wiped? Is this a process of time travel? And would this mean that events maybe like Alone would be a whole meeting of walkers that had their brains wiped and were from the past? We don't know. A third possibility would be this. Heading Home, again, thousands of years ago, would be 28300's native timeline, and she would travel into the future to On My Way and Alone Part 2 while having her memory wiped. And then after Alone Part 2, she's going to cycle and time travel to the past to Heading Home again. And every time she would travel to the past or to the future, supposedly, I guess her memory would be wiped. But this is going to create a massive cycle, and she'll be traveling forwards and backwards in time, constantly. This does bring up the questions, how did she time travel after Alone Part 2, and how is her memory wiped again? Another theory that we have is that the entire story from Heading Home until Diamond Heart is a massive loop. So while what we see only goes from the ancient civilization in Heading Home until Diamond Heart, the walkers from Diamond Heart may eventually become the ancient walkers for people thousands of years after them, and their newly built walker city will become the ancient temple similar to the one that we saw in Heading Home. This means that the storyline will go on forever, and has gone on forever. Since the stone sculptures in the Heading Home temple contain prophecies, and those prophecies must have come from either the past or the future. Another important thing to note is that these prophecies would have always existed. And when history comes around again in thousands of years, another girl would take up 28300's role and take on the same role and the same journey. So that's all we have for today. Thank you guys for watching. If you want more videos like this, just drop a comment below. This is really my first time doing narration, so I hope it wasn't too bad. If you're interested for more videos like this, maybe hit the thumbs up button, check out our channel, and consider subscribing. It really helps us out. Alrighty, thanks guys, and I'll see you sometime soon.